today. Before we start, can you please join me for a few moments of silence for the people who have passed away because of COVID? Thank you so very much. These are, of course, very trying times, and we're going to try and put that aside for at least part of this afternoon. I'd like to take a few moments just to bring you up to date. My name is Jim Hubbard. I'm the current president of the CARP Calgary Chapter 10. I'd like to just tell you a bit about us, CARP. CARP is a national, nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization that advocates. Our mandate is to promote and protect the interests, the rights, and quality of life for Canadians as we age. And when I talk about advocacy, I guess I'd like to give you a few advocacy challenges that's on our plate. Long-term care. And I think that we've heard that quite a bit, and we're going to keep hearing quite a bit when 80% of the deaths are from long-term care. Senior affordable housing. Vaccines, access to vaccines, free access to vaccines, high-dose vaccines, the shingle vaccines, the pneumococcal vaccines, so that we can live a much safer life. I'd like to move forward and introduce to you the people who make this chapter work. And I'd like to thank each and every one of them for the work that they've done in 2020. 2020 has not been an easy year for anyone. And so this is these are our committee members for 2020 and 2021. And I'll go through them very quickly for you. I've just mentioned my name is Jim Hubbard. Vice President is Doug Martin. Our Secretary is Deborah Winston. Our Treasurer is Roger Merritt. And I guess if we were here live in person, you know, I could have them stand up and dance or wave or whatever, but at this moment we can't do that. So you just get the name. The Advocacy Chair is Jack Clark, and part of his committee is Deborah Winston and David Olson. The Communication Chair is Gerald Dunn, and part of her committee is Peter Zhu, Tara Hanks, and Jean Gonneson. And the Education Chair is Jackie Potiker, and her committee is Allison James, Fran Jameson, Kathy Seaman, Lorraine Bennett, Ora Major, and Susan Costello. And also on our executive team, we have a founding member, Bob Robinson, and an advisor, Susan Costello. And these are the people, of course, that do the work in the background for our membership. I'm going to move to some of the actions and impacts that we've had, you know, during this COVID, starting last year. We had 4 events that were planned for 2020, 4 live events. And I'm going to say it's a lot better and more fun, at least certainly, to be able to shake hands with the people and see them live. But I guess we have to take advantage of the technology that we have in Zoom and move forward in that end. Our first, so we canceled all our events, and our first Zoom webinar was on vaccines, and it was on October the 6th this year. Before that, as part of our advocacy, we had a letter campaign for affordable senior housing here in Calgary. We sent out our first letters anyways to the Premier, the mayor, and MLAs. And I know a lot of the members was involved signing these letters and sending them on. But this is a never-ending campaign. We just can't say because we sent out one letter that it's over. We need to continue it, and we will continue to keep going forward on this matter. All the executive meetings that we used to have in person were moved to Zoom. And this year, during a number of these meetings, we had people come and talk to us to inform us of the situation as to what's going on in Alberta and Calgary on the different issues that impact our advocacy. So we had senior housing situation given to us by ASHA, the Alberta Seniors Community Housing Association. They're the largest in Alberta, and they're well aware of what the situation is. Then we had senior continuing care situation, again, given to us by Alberta Health Services. The people at Alberta Health Services informed us as to what's going on. We had someone from the Health Advocate Office tell us about the organization of the Health Advocate Office. And another session, we had a presentation from the past senior advocate of Alberta. And during that time, at least some, there was a lot of positives. We were continually recruiting, and we've finally ended up with 3 new committee members, David Olson, Tara Hanks, and Peter Zhu. And we're really glad that they've come on board. Just a bit on the financial impact. The new membership and renewals is how we make our money. CARP National gives us a percentage of the money on new memberships and on renewals. Now, when we had live events, it was a lot easier to solicit new members. And however, this year it's been really, really rough, and we need to move forward in that area to find ways to get new members. Expense-wise, we have very few ongoing expenses. I mean, we have, a rental of a mailbox, we have a telephone line, we have Zoom now that we have to pay for, and we have a storage unit where we keep all our things. But I can tell you, we at least aren't in debt. Maybe the government is, but we aren't. And hopefully we can stay afloat for a little while, but we do need to find ways to increase our revenues. And as I mentioned, one way is memberships, the other way is sponsorships, but it's a bit more difficult when you don't have live events. So one of my suggestions to you is give a CARP subscription to a few of your friends for Christmas. All you have to do is go to our Facebook page and fill out the information, and you'll make a couple of people happy. Of course, you'll make us happy, and you certainly make the people who receive this Zoomer magazine and CARP prescription happy also. And last but not least, for now anyways, the Senior Advocate Project, that's the #1 priority currently. We have a team led by Doug Martin, who is moving forward on making sure that Alberta comes back with a senior advocate reporting to the legislature. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to turn it over to Doug, who is going to talk to you about the Senior Advocate Project.
Thank you, Jim. Just before I start, we now have 63 people attending. If you're not in Calgary or the surrounding area, if you could just let us know where you're from. This is our first webinar that goes across Alberta. And now that we're actually in this pandemic and we're doing things by webinar, we'll be doing this for all of Alberta in the future as well. So just so we know that we're reaching out past Calgary. So Seniors Advocate Project. Alberta did have a Seniors Advocate for a while from 2016 to 2019, but it was in by what was called a ministerial order. So it was just something that the government decided to do. It wasn't enshrined in legislation. And the current government just did not renew that ministerial order, and the office was closed at the end of 2019. So CARP Calgary is working with seniors groups across Alberta. We have a number of them. A couple of the major ones are the Kirby Centre in Calgary, ASHA up in Edmonton, as a coordinated effort to petition the Alberta government to put in place a legislated Seniors Advocate Office. Currently, there's 7 other advocate offices in Alberta. From a health perspective, there's one for health itself, one for child and youth, another one for people with disabilities, and one for mental health. And we actually have 3 other non-health advocates, property rights, farming, forget what the other one is. Now, these are all in legislation. So it's kind of imbalanced that we have all of this advocacy within the government through legislation, but nothing for seniors specifically. So when the Seniors Advocate Office was closed at the end of 2019, all health issues for older adults are now sent through the health advocate. But we all know that older adults have much more issues than health. They have concerns around financial supports, abuse, both physical, mental, and monetary, food security, housing. So there's no voice for them right now on those issues from an advocate perspective. And we really want to make sure that this new advocate office is enshrined in legislation and reports directly to the legislature. One of the big things that an advocate office does is report independently when without influence to the citizens of Alberta and to the government on the issues faced by the group they represent. And when they're legislated, they have there's no way to influence them on that. So in our most recent newsletter and on our Facebook page, we've described how you can support this effort by phoning your MLA. We have been in discussion with a UCP MLA who's given us some good advice on how to approach this. And his comment was definitely that phone calls are the most influential way to make change. Emails and letter campaigns have some effect, but not a large effect. When people get phone calls and you can actually talk to the MLA or talk to their constituency office and outline your concerns, it raises the profile of that concern. So in the Facebook page and in the newsletter, we give you a few points of the things we'd like you to tell your MLA. But if you have any personal stories where you think an advocate office could have helped, please include those when you talk to your MLA. So maybe I should just go back and say a little bit, what we're looking for from an advocate is twofold. One is to help individuals navigate the government system and departments when they can't find what they need, and champion their causes, individual causes, so that they get resolved. The other thing that we are looking for from the Seniors Advocate Office is to report on systemic issues with government programs and other things in Alberta so that older adult Albertans are better served by the government. And if you would like to know more about this project, please contact us at carpcalgary@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to contact you and provide you more information about what we're doing. And at the end of the presentation, we'll open it up for questions for Patricia, and if you have any other questions about the Seniors Advocate Project. Thank you. Back to you, Jim.
Back to me. Well, this is going to sound like a tennis match or something, because I'm going to knock it back to Jackie, who is now gets the privilege of introducing Patricia Morgan. Go ahead, Jackie.
Okie dokie. Yeah, a true privilege. Patricia Morgan is often referred to as a spunky seniorpreneur. Her ability to provide bite-sized knowledge nuggets for resilience has helped many people emerge stronger after facing unthinkable challenge. With an MA in clinical psychology, she has authored several books on resilience, stress management, and women's issues. She is a recipient of Global TV's Woman of Vision Award and the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers Spirit of CAPS Award for her contribution to the Canadian speaking industry. Patricia has been described as a therapeutic counselor, author, mother to 3, grandmother to 5, and happily married most days. Like the rest of us who are married, possibly. She has so very graciously agreed to share her wisdom and ideas to help us weather the storm of this pandemic and to lift us as we head into another round of restricted activities. I have personally listened to presentations by Patricia, and I know that you are going to enjoy her. So, to offer us antidotes to loneliness, from the Calgary chapter of CARP, we are so pleased to welcome Patricia Morgan.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Wow, you read that better than I wrote it.
Oh, another little bit of editing, which I, got your permission for first.
All right. So, Doug, I want you to give us a little background intro on your musical machine there so that we can sing Roy Orbison's song, Only the Lonely. Have you got that? Otherwise, you're going to have to listen to me do a little bit of an intro of Only. There we go. The way I feel tonight, only lonely. No, this feeling ain't right. There goes my baby. There goes my heart. That's good, Doug. Thank you. So only the lonely know how I feel tonight. The truth is that most of us have had moments of loneliness. Indeed. In April, I was asked to reach out to a woman in Quebec. And in April, there was a severe lockdown in areas of Quebec. And when this woman and I connected, this is what I heard. Patricia, I have been alone for a long time. I was bullied at work, and my doctor told me I was depressed. So I have stayed at home for over a year. I used to live with my partner, but he died 2 years ago. I seldom speak to any family I have. I have a sister and a nephew. And I have decided that I have nothing to offer the world. And here I am alone. What can you do for me? So she's not alone in many ways, in a sense. And if I had known better, I would have asked her, do you feel lonely? Because we talked about depression. We talked about her strengths that she had forgotten to use. We talked about the importance of getting out and connecting with people. And I did not ask the question, are you lonely? Which might have motivated her more quickly to take action for herself. She did eventually take action for herself, and she gets my monthly newsletter, and periodically I hear from her that she's doing some of the actions that we decided would help her move forward. She's now volunteer with an immigrant organization, and she talks to people en français so that they can learn French. She makes soup now and then for some of her neighbors and leaves it on their doorstep. She takes walks. She asks to touch people's dogs in the park so that she gets some touching needs met. And she now has regular conversations on the phone with her sister. So if somebody in Quebec who was forlorn, we know that we have some tools to move us forward in those moments of loneliness, and also the ability to help other people that may be struggling with loneliness. And at first, I would like to take a look at some definitions. And I understand that the handout was not able to be transferred by email, but the information, the content from the handout that I had prepared ended up in your message about the Zoom meeting. So if you have that in front of you, that's what I'm going to be following as far as content. And at the end of this session, if you want to email me, I will send you the handout and another document that I have at the end to offer you a little surprise. So which is it? Let's take a look at definitions. And I hope your screen is nice and big so that you can see these images along with me. So to be alone, she talked about being alone. And indeed she was. But there is nothing wrong with being alone. Many of us choose being alone as a breakaway. And sometimes we call that being alone something else. We call it, particularly my husband, solitude. He goes off into the wilderness for his solitude. And indeed, he is very much alone. That means nobody is nearby. You're alone. Fortunately, he has a little gizmo that if he has an emergency, he can connect with the world so that he can be rescued. So that's a comfort to me. Some people need more alone time than others, but there gets to be an edge between being alone and the solitude that becomes loneliness. If you need more solitude, declare it. I know that there are some families now during COVID, and particularly now that the children in Alberta won't be able to go to school. Again, those parents are going to have a break. They're going to want some solitude. They're going to want some alone time. They will call it me time. I can hear the young mom next door saying to her husband, can you give me some me time? I need to be alone for a few minutes to collect myself and get back in connection with my own self. So solitude historically has only really been the privilege of the wealthy, or perhaps those in jail that have ended up in what's called solitary confinement, as a privilege at one time for solitude. And then there's the word isolated. And isolated is a little different than alone, but very much connected. And that is that if you want to make connection, if you want to bring yourself together with others, it is next to impossible because you are in an isolated situation. And then we have the term lonely. And where did this word, I'm feeling lonely, or a sense of, it's a cluster actually of feelings, the word lonely. There's an emptiness to it, a sadness, a loss, and it's an emptiness of connection, a disconnect to being connected to other people. I'm just going to share a little bit of history about being aware of this condition of lonely. Yeah, after I read this quotation. Loneliness is the discrepancy between what you have and what you want from your relationships. It's that distance that we have, a disconnect from other people. And as I said, there are some parents during having these kids at home that would like some distance for themselves. Can you still hear me, Doug?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great, thank you. Oh, back. I want to go back. Hang on. This is my grandma's house. Do you remember your grandma's house? Oh, the grandmas, and now we're the grandmas and the grandpas. This was my grandma's house. In this house lived my grandmother, my grandfather, my bachelor uncle, we called him Uncle Spunky, his name was William, my Aunt Margaret, who left her alcoholic husband with her 2 children, lived in this house, and great Aunt Idie came every summer to help out on the farm. And I remember at one point, it was about maybe a 2 to 2.5 year span, there were 2 great grandmothers, my great grandmothers, my grandmother's mother and my grandfather's mother, both propped up in beds in the dining room. The dining room was turned into a hospice. These elderly ladies were at their last legs, and there weren't hospices back then. And there was my grandmother and my grandfather caring and hovering over all of these people. No one talked about loneliness. And this was our safe haven for us, because my dad, I believe, had post-traumatic stress disorder from serving in the Second World War. And he had an anger management issue. And sometimes we kids just needed a break from not feeling afraid. We'd ride our bikes about 3 miles to come and be at my grandma Effie's and feel safe. And it was chaotic and in many ways wonderful, but nobody talked about feeling lonely. Then it was in 1962 that we had Paul McCartney. He started noticing that the elderly in England were expressing loneliness. People were starting to live in separate homes. Generational living wasn't as acceptable. And I don't know if you remember the song, Eleanor Rigby. Where have all the lonely people come from? Where have they come from? Do you remember those lines? Maybe somebody can sing it better than me. Eleanor Rigby, I'm doing fumble mouth here. Where have all the lonely people come from? There was a trigger for the world to be asking themselves, indeed, where have these lonely people come from? We're starting to see signals of people feeling lonely. So I have a little quiz here for you, and you can just write your answer in the chat box. And Doug has very kindly agreed to do a little reporting back of your guess at this question. Social relationships increase likelihood of longer lifespan by how much? Window number 1, 21%. Window number 2, 50%. Window number 3, 67%. You can either write the percentage in or the window, number 1, number 2, number 3. And we'll see how on track you are. So,
Patricia,
yep.
Are you, like, all we see is you? Is that what you're planning, or are you supposed to be
my goodness, I've been showing my slides to myself.
There we go.
let me go back. That is so funny. Okay, well, I guess we're stuck here. All right, window number 1, window number 2, or window number 3. And Doug, if I do that again, please clue me in. You missed some wonderful slides of the beautiful face of Paul McCartney and my grandma's house. Okay, let's move forward. What's your guess? Window number 1, window number 2, window number 3. And what are you seeing, Doug, in the chat room?
Overwhelmingly, it's 67% number 3.
Okay, maybe we have some pessimists in the crowd. So this is research that was done in 2010 by Julianne Holt Lundstad. And interestingly enough, as a researcher, she started this research probably about year 2000. And her research colleagues said it was fluff. It was kind of nonsense research. Well, now the world has woken up to the concept of loneliness. You are the second organization to ask me to do this presentation on loneliness, and I've got another 2 waiting in line. So just know it's not as bad as the majority, but it is a significant change that happens when we don't attend to that sense of being lonely. And then in 2018, the World Health Organization listed loneliness as a mental health crisis. And then we have COVID to complicate the whole thing and have us feeling isolated, disconnected, if we don't pay attention to the ways we can connect. And of course, with the Alberta announcement yesterday, we are confined even more. And so it's very timely we're having this presentation about loneliness. The first step you can take is to stop using the term social distance. I noticed that a lot of the media are using it, and so are some of our government officials. We want to stay connected. We want to stay social. That's what loneliness is about, is the opposite of social. What we want to not do is we don't want to get physically close. We want to keep our physical distance except for our bubble. So who are the lonely? Good question. So I want you to choose one demographic in a minute. I'm going to show you some demographics, and you can choose one of these demographics or a demographic that you are aware of. Are single people living alone, married people, single parents, the poor, homeless, disabled, youth, immigrants, the people in the LGBTQ2 community, which tend to be shunned from some circles, and or, of course, the elderly, us, older. So in the chat box, again, I invite you to put your guess. Which demographic do you think the statistics indicate are the most lonely? Not saying that the others don't come up on the demographics, but which one is your guess? And what are you seeing, Doug?
A lot of people have said all of them. There's a number that say the elderly, a couple that said youth, one said married. One said the elderly, then the LGBTQ2.
Yes. So I laughed about the married because I just had a friend tell me that she was the loneliest when she was married. So you can see that lonely has very little to do with being alone or with other people. You can be in a crowd and feel really lonely. So the Angus Reid report on loneliness came out just last month, and the highest demographic were youth. Elderly were indeed high. LGBTQ community are at risk because, as you know, some religious organizations do not welcome them. They're not welcomed in certain circles. And so that any hint of being shunned or turned away is an indicator of a possibility of alone, not necessarily loneliness. I'm going to over and over again talk about the difference between alone and loneliness. But I want you to think about teenagers that developmentally, they're at a stage where they don't want to be at home. They don't want to be with their parents. They want to start exercising their independence. Who is the most important influencer in a youth's life? Is their peers. And here they are having to not easily connect with their peers. And then there's lots of research about how social media has to be used in a certain way strategically for us to feel connected rather than the illusion of connection. So here's the deal. people do not necessarily identify as saying, just like my client in Quebec, do not necessarily come out and say, I feel lonely. They don't say it to themselves and they don't say it to other people. That's the tendency. It's rare. Because when you say, I feel lonely, we get kind of the message in our head or by society that we're a loser. If you're lonely, you must not have much value. People aren't interested in you. You must be a loser. So there's a stigma around saying that line, I feel lonely. So it's one of the things we can do is start saying it ourselves. But what does turn up is people drink more, eating more. Obesity is increasing during COVID. So is drinking. The liquor stores are doing well. They start having anxiety attacks, depression. So just like my client in Quebec, again, who came forward as saying, I feel depressed. These are the signals you want to pay attention to, are the mental health signals and the physical signals of not looking after self-care, right? So just keep that in mind as we move forward. As the Angus Reid Institute indicated, it is important to measure how much a person would like to be alone and how much they would like to be connected, because we can end up making assumptions. There are many single people that have a very vibrant social life and they are doing just fine. There are some elderly that are doing fine. And so we want to take that into consideration. Are they alone? But we don't also want to make assumptions. So we want to check in with people. If we are seeing the mental health or physical changes, and we want to ask the question, are you feeling lonely? So I just love this little gal. Do you think she's connected to herself? I think so. And so now I stretched a little bit the CARP acronym to give us some structure for content for this talk. And so CARP on with connection to self. That's the first place to start, checking in on your own level of connection and loneliness. And this is called a self-hug. And actually therapists are using it, and I'm using it at the end of my counseling sessions. And this is called the butterfly hug that I'm doing. And it is stimulating. The skin is the largest organ in the body, and I'm going to come back to it in a little bit. We need to attend to our touching needs. So the literature that I've dove into around loneliness talked about the three basic areas that, if not attended to, will stimulate loneliness. The first is to have a confidant. And a confidant is somebody that when you just want to pour out your heart, that person has a really good listening ear and cares about you. And it can be an intimate partner, or it can be a friend, it can be a sister, a brother. People who, these are also warning signals for other people that you care about, is to notice whether they have a confidant, and perhaps you are that confidant. So there's just three areas. The second area is connection to family and friends. I'm just going to show you, these are our three children. First one was planned, second was adopted, and the third one was, our birth control didn't work. And there's a son-in-law in there in the picture as well. And then children started having grandchildren. And in my introduction, I forgot to mention that I actually have two darling great grandkids. Yes, I'm a great grandma from my sweetheart, Danielle. And I want to make it clear that for some people, family does not give a sense of disconnection. For some people, family is toxic. I have two women in my life that have asked me to be their mother. So Gannett is from Ethiopia, and there's a disconnect with much of the culture that's going on in Ethiopia. I don't know if you've noticed the news, but she calls me her Canadian mom. And it's very difficult for her right now with family back home. But she said she needed to feel like she had a mom that understood her Canadian experience. My other darling had a mom with mental health issues, and she's my colleague, she's my friend. Jeanette's sometimes my client, sometimes I'm hers, and she calls me her surrogate mom. And so I invite you to consider some of the people that connect to you that are younger, to provide that sense of family if they don't have it. And the third area is community. By the way, these three areas of confidant, family and friends, and community are written about in a book that just came out this year in 2020 by the previous Surgeon General of the United States, Vivek Murthy. And I put him in his book. His book is called Together in the resource section of the handout. And he talks about community. He had friends. He had a loving wife and family. But he found out after that he left being that position of the Surgeon General that he was missing a sense of purpose of community. And community provides sense of purpose, sense of a bigger picture of functioning and contributing to the world. And I congratulate you for being a CARP member. And join organizations that you have time for. Some of us have little time and some have more time. If you've got more time, get connected with a community that supports your values and doing the work that you want happening in the world. C is in CARP. We're going to go through CARP. C is for communicate. Yes, don't be an old goat. Communicate and even say that line, I feel lonely. I'm going to go through the different ways that, pardon me. I want to just show you this little sign. Warning. Loneliness is a warning that you need connection. So one of the best ways is to communicate. All right. And then we have A for adapt. We've been asked to do a lot of adapting, and now we are back adapting. I want to put on my little stress management hat just for a minute here. The reason that many of us are feeling extreme stress at this time is for each change we are asked to make, it requires adaptation, which takes extra focus and energy. I don't know about you, but each time I go out to get groceries, by the time I come home, I notice that I am tireder than previously when grocery shopping was much easier, much straightforward to accomplish. So I want you to take care of your stress management by including some me time, and don't beat yourself up if you need extra rest after you do some of the tasks that did not take as much energy as before for you. So adaptation is energy draining every time we have to do it. Just think about a new baby and all the adaptations people have to make for that, or moving to a new home or a new neighborhood. And we need to relate. R is for relate in CARP. And that is reaching out and making connections in whatever way we can. Write a letter. Think about the thrill that you feel when you get a letter in the mailbox. And you're thinking about somebody else in a very thoughtful way. Writing is an art form. Our oldest daughter writes beautiful, beautiful thank you notes and letters. She's exquisite at it. The downside of letters is it's hard to express emotions. And emotions are one of the strongest vehicles we have for connecting. So that's why for many, they love using emoticons. So if you text or you email, emails don't work very well with emoticons. You have to do extra work. But any texting or messenger, Facebook, all of the social media platforms, we can express some emotions by adding some of these little emoticons. And by the way, one of the best ways to connect with youth, our grandkids or our great grandkids, is to learn the skill of texting. And then there's picking up the phone. So each weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I make a point of picking up the phone and phoning a friend or a relative to say, how are you doing? Because we can hear the warmth, we can hear emotions in the vocal cords. We hear that warmth. And wonderful. Zoom, we can see each other, we can hear each other, we can see the facial expressions. The piece that's missing is the touch. And of course, the pixelation kind of puts a distortion to what you're looking at. However, this is a technology that I wish my mother had in the 3 years she sent a letter to my father when he was in Europe during the Second World War. She never knew whether the letters got there. For 3 years, they didn't see each other, they didn't hear each other, and once in a while, they received a love letter from one another. We can do love so beautifully over the internet. I really questioned using Zoom as a therapeutic modality. And I can tell you, I have probably helped close to 30 people since COVID broke out using Zoom and reaching through this lens to tell them that somebody cares. And of course, face-to-face is the best. So make sure if you do live with a loved one or you have designated 1, 2, or 3, whatever people you've decided in your bubble, make sure you make eye contact, soft eye contact, and have a sense of presence with that other person. And P is for participate. Good for you for being online and participating with CARP. All those initiatives that Jim described, I hope you are participating. When we participate, we feel connected. And a quick little quiz for you, and this should be a fairly easy answer, but Doug, you ready for this? The first person that answers correctly this question that I'm going to ask in a minute is going to have either this book, Love Her As She Is, Lessons from a Daughter Stolen by Addictions, written by me. 11 years, my daughter was in and out of jail. We did not know she had a disability. When you know better, you do better. And my love letters to her have helped many people who have struggled to stay in connection with a person that they love who has an addiction. Or they can choose this book, From Woe to Wow, How Resilient Women Succeed at Work. Okay, so here's the question. You heard all the information, and now where are you listening? What is CARP petitioning the Alberta government to do?
We have the first person in saying seniors advocate.
Ta-da! Yay! So please email me. I'll give you my email in a few minutes here. Email me and let me know which one of my books, or if you forget, I'll remind you. Yes, so pick up the phone, folks, participate, become an active member. I've been a member of several organizations, and it feels wonderful to make a difference in a bigger picture. So and your executive, your leadership is encouraging you to pick up the phone.
Okay. Patricia, just so you know, the person who was first, her first name was Lori.
Maury?
Lori.
Lori. Congratulations, Lori. Is that a man or a woman?
Lori.
Lori. Okay. Don't know about names anymore, do we? Okay, I want to talk a little bit about connection just for a few minutes here. Stimulating oxytocin. Oxytocin is that hormone that gives us a sense of connection, of warmth. It's what mothers have lots of oxytocin when they give birth to a newborn baby, which helps them manage the pain of a newborn baby. And there are ways to stimulate oxytocin, and we need to be doing this during this time in particular, because we're not getting our touching needs met, our connection needs met as much during this time. And one of the ways is to listen to music, some of your favorite music. That's one way. Another way is to get creative. And I love making videos. I love doing slide decks like this and playing around with images and cropping them. I love writing. I've got over 250 articles on my website and a bunch of books available to people. But I just want to go here for a minute and share with you a couple ideas around touching needs. If you have a pet, please invite that pet onto your lap and pet your hands and your neck out. If you don't have a pet, you can certainly go walking in a dog park and approach people that look friendly and the dog looks friendly and say, can I just have a little loving touch with your pet? My husband and I actually are looking into adopting a cat. He's a cat lover, and I think that's going to be really, really helpful. He has prostate cancer, and so we are very limited in our reaching out to others. So I think that cat will be a comfort to both him and me. If you don't have a dog or a cat, and you're not close to a dog park, well, then get something fuzzy, and you can have it look like a pet. This is another one of my favorite. This little bunny is one of the softest little creatures that I could imagine having. And I asked for this one day around Christmas when we were out shopping. The other way to do it is get yourself, if you don't already have one, a fluffy fur. Fake fur, just fine. It's this need to be touched. And last but not least, especially if you're living alone, do those Zoom calls and end with, I want you to do it even now, please. Take your hands, give yourself, I'm just going to lift a little bit here. Give yourself a squeeze here, up and down, feel that skin. And when you're looking at a loved one over Zoom, I want you to imagine they're touching you. And this will help stimulate oxytocin. It'll have you feeling warm and comforted and connected. Okay? Really important. Back to Mr. Dancing here. All right. Now, I thought people were getting a handout because that's why I made this little correction. There's 2.3s on the handout, but here on the slide deck, we have 0.4. And we're going to explore how we can connect with those people that we suspect are lonely. And their behavior has changed. They're showing, either they're more weight, drinking more, starting to talk about feeling anxious, starting to feel anxiety. If they say they feel alone, that they are alone, they're alone too much, then ask the question, do you feel lonely? And here are some other ideas for you to reach out to what I'm calling the lonely, though I don't like labeling people. And the first, which comes from the book Together by Dr. Vivek Murthy, is the foundation for connecting with other people is connecting with ourselves. So we've already talked about that. It's hard to approach other people if we haven't first looked after our own needs for connection. And when we approach people, we want to check in with ourselves. It took my client in Quebec a while for us to work together to build her sense of worth, her sense of worthiness. Because when we approach another person out of emptiness, we're not going to do them any good. So are we feeling a sense of worthiness, and we have something to offer other people? We all have strengths. We all have histories, experience, talents to share. And can we go with a sense of being present for them? If you are the lonely, then find somebody in your circle that's got that number one, sense of worthiness. Number two, sense of presence, being able to be present, looking with soft eyes, paying attention, not self-absorbed. And is that person at peace with themselves, not troubled by anything particularly big? And it's okay to be the person is the lonely. And it is wonderful if you can fill yourself up to be there for others who have that sense of feeling lonely. So you go with an open, present heart. You want to do this for any age at any time. Second of all, you want to listen with gentle ears. And here's just a little hint about exquisite listening. And that is to repeatedly say, tell me more. Tell me more. You don't have to ask much more. Wow, that's interesting. Tell me more. A couple other open-ended questions will also help. What was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? Are you struggling with any of, that are you struggling is a yes/no question. It might sound like this. What are you struggling the most with at this time? And you might do some self-disclosure. By the way, that's really helpful too before you start listening to somebody else, is saying, I've had some moments of feeling loneliness. What about you? What about you is another good question. So share, and then what about you? Or tell me more when the person is sharing either their highs or their lows or in between. And hands. Christmas is coming up. And what can we offer that our hands have done? I don't know about you, but I'm starting to put my creative brain on about gifts. How am I going to substitute the usual traditional family gathering where we usually have anywhere from 12 to 15 of us at the table? At Easter, my husband and I spent 2 days preparing Easter feast and delivering it to 5 houses. And I dressed up as the Easter bunny. If ever you want to see that, I have a YouTube channel of my hippity hoppity bunny delivery. So what can we do for those people that are indeed the lonely in this upcoming season? And now it was suggested that we do a little question and answer. And I would like to move into that question and answer period by asking you to put in the chat room what has been the number one way for you to make connections with others. That will help all of us online. We're not alone in this. We're together in this. So put in your chat room and Doug will read them out loud. What are some of those ways that you have made connection with others?
So we've got walking the dog, which I do twice a day with mine. Regular appointments with friends on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Phone calls and emails.
Right.
Volunteering in our community. Phone and text and emails, FaceTime, Zoom, walking, picnics in the park, texting family more often, sidewalk chats with neighbors, FaceTime, play
Right.
bridge online with longtime friends.
Fantastic.
Calling friends and email, online book club, FaceTime.
Oh, I'm in an online book club. Fantastic. And it's very easy to start one too if you don't have other people that you know that are doing a book club.
And somebody signed up for a personal development course. Talk with friends on phone, have my grandchildren for play dates when healthy is okay, help people in need, going for distance walks with friends and relatives, still teaching a few piano students, but online, having a family festive baking Zoom, that's interesting, sharing food preparations with neighbors, online writing course, learning how to use a range of platforms for online connections, studying Mandarin online,
Whoa.
and went on a picnic on a friend's deck. So there we go, lots of good ideas.
Oh, that is a potpourri of amazing ways to stay connected. And by the way, Coursera, RSER.com, has an array of free academic university courses. I've taken 2 or 3 of them, and they are rigorous. There's usually thousands of people on it. Universities from all over the world provide demonstration classes. So I've taken a class on positive psychology with the researcher Barbara Fredrickson, who wrote one of the pioneering books called Positivity. I took a professional speaking course through Coursera through a university professor in Seattle. What's a third one? You know what? My kids say, Mom, how can you keep speaking when your memory just keeps tripping you up? And I say, oh, honey, with my kind of experience, I can always drum up something else to say.
Patricia?
So, yeah.
Sorry, just a couple of things. One person has said that the U of C is live online and can relate to other students. One person's asking you to respell that course name again.
COURSE, like the word course, and then R, Coursera. Oh, ERA, my apology. Coursera.com. And actually, Google is, I don't have to worry about spelling. I don't have to worry about my memory. I just love Google. If you type in even the word course and then put free programs or something like that, it should come up. Udemy, UDEMY, is another platform. And quite frankly, if you type in free and then course, between YouTube and many of these other initiatives, there is a lot that we can learn. When the Black Lives Movement became loud in May and June, I watched hours of Bell Hooks video. And recently, because of what's going on in Ethiopia and my support of Gannett, I ended up watching quite a few hours of Rosenberg, Marshall Rosenberg, who is the founder of the nonviolent communication movement. He's written many books that you can get on Amazon, and he talks with puppets, and I've just learned so much from watching these videos. TED Talks. If you don't know about TED, TED Talks, TED Talks, world leaders. I've watched Brene Brown. My favorite TED Talk, if any of you are into classical music, is watch Benjamin Zandler. His TED Talk is so inspiring and heartwarming. It's all about turning people on to classical music. He does it with passion. Any other comments, Doug, before we move on?
Yeah, so one person said that Duolingo, DUOLINGO, has free language learning.
Wow.
Um,
Oh, by the way, for dementia, learning a new language or a new instrument, I didn't bring down my ukulele. I took ukulele classes last year. I still play really badly, but I can play like one song fairly well. And so any new learning is recommended for us to keep our brains active. And playing games such as somebody said they were playing, was it bridge they were playing
Yep.
online? Right. So any of those activities, and there's actually online, again, there are activities and platforms to keep your brain alert.
yeah, one person said that they had everyone send that person a selfie on their 75th birthday.
What a great idea. What a great idea. So on, yes, send a selfie on your birthday. A recent friend did an open house on Zoom. He just said, I'll be on Zoom from 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock and come and visit me. And he said, everybody, the link. And people came and went, and different people had different talents that they would do. Another senior friend of mine teaches, I think it's trombone, and he's doing that over Zoom with his students. And he's a older person. Somebody told me not to use the word senior anymore. If that person's online, would they let me know, remind me why that word has become a no-no? Because I don't mind. To me, when I was growing up, a senior person was somebody to be revered. Just like, do you remember the old days when your MLA came to the door and Dad would make us behave ourselves because this was an important person who deserved our respect, came to the door? I don't know what happened to that word, politics and respect. But anyway, I won't say anything more about politics.
So that Jackie, if you want to unmute,
Yeah,
he's our resident champion of the use of the term older adult.
Right. So yes, please remind me, Jackie, and our viewers.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I think it was me that we were having a discussion about that. There were two reasons. One is that when I was teaching at U of C, I would, and you're right, it is how things have changed. And when I would put up on the whiteboard adult, and I would put up the word senior, I would get them to brainstorm for each of those words. And all the negative things that came up with the senior were balanced off of obviously with adult. And the fact is that I would often say to people, you know, I spent 18 years, well, 21 when I was back then, waiting to become an adult. And I don't like to be cut off now just simply because I've reached a certain age. So the thing is that I want to stay an adult, so I prefer to be an older adult. And secondly is the fact that maybe many of people of our age do like the term senior and do feel that we've achieved the status. The rest of the world doesn't actually see that these days. And especially when we start coming up with all the concepts around ageism. And with ageism, all of the prototypes that you see around using the pictures for old people or looking at references around how older people live or how they think, or even in terms of technology, older people can't manage this sort of thing. So that is why I really believe that we need to stop using words that categorize people and instead, let's all just be adults. We achieved that. We want to stay an adult. And this way, you try to eradicate a lot of the horrible things that happen around ageism.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm old. I'm 74 years old, and that's how old I am. And I encourage anybody on this line who is old to stop saying it's your 29th birthday, because you look pretty sick to me when you're obviously over a certain age. I think it's time we just were pleased with who we were.
And
I'm 74. I've lived 74 years. I've earned what I know. I've earned what I've done. And here I am. And if cheese can be better at older, and if Chateau La Briand or whatever it is can be better older, then I too can improve. And I don't necessarily say that all older people are wise. Some of them are still, in some ways, haven't invested in knowing themselves or expanding in the world. I think wisdom needs to be earned. So I don't get me on the whole ages a bit, because as a speaker, I have run into it. Like, so I do just have this wonderful relationship with the meeting planner. And then this is when we could show up at events. And I show up and then they start calling me ma'am. Do you need help, ma'am? And I said, were you expecting somebody younger? Yes, ma'am. I said, well, guess what? I am older and I've got good energy. And on the phone, I sounded young and energetic, and I'm who I am, and I will do a very good job. There we go. So let's move on to the next question, because that was a rousing discussion. This one. What is one action you will personally take to connect to someone else? And I encourage you to share what you've already done, that you're going to continue to do. But as we move into the holiday season, all of these ideas might be helpful for us to know how can we perhaps identify. Again, I don't want the assumptions that just because we're older that we're feeling lonely, or if we are a single person that we're lonely. I've got a friend out in Vancouver about the same age as me, and she lives in a little tiny 700 square foot apartment in a condo building. And I don't know anybody who's better connected. She's on the phone. She takes a break from Zoom by being on the phone. Then she goes back on Zoom, and she's incredibly connected. So we don't make assumptions, but we check. So what are some ideas to take an action that you've either done, you'll continue to do, or that you might do moving into the holiday season to connect with somebody else?
The first one is funny. So it says, I'm starting a Zoom knitting group in our community, knit and bitch.
Right. I have a friend who's part of the Grandma You Gamma, Stephen Lewis's foundation, and they knit and crochet together, and they're doing it over Zoom now. So good on you.
Somebody's dropping treats off in mailboxes.
Whoa, I like that. If the ground weren't frozen, we could dig some holes and plant some tulip bulbs in some of our neighbors or friends' gardens, and have a great surprise when spring 2021 comes along.
Mail a postcard each week to my niece and nephews. Make calls to those friends who I don't call as regular. Say something kind to them.
Right. I don't know one person on this planet that doesn't long or welcome to be seen, to be heard, and acknowledged.
One person cooks extra and delivers it to their elderly couple next door or something.
Yeah. Guess what? We're the elderly couple for next door. They keep bringing us. We got soup last week. Then we got a box of strawberries. And then we got some cookies.
Somebody's already planted bulbs in their neighbor's yard.
Oh! Bingo. Excellent. I love these ideas.
Okay, I think that's it.
You think that's it? All right. Use your creative brain as the season comes along. I'm just looking here at my notes. I think I'm just about finished with my slides. Let me just see here. Here we go. we're winding down towards a closure. This email should be on the invitation you received for this meeting. I was asked about a month ago for the first time by a church community to present some ideas on this whole issue of loneliness. What exactly does it mean? What can we do? And I thought, well, I know lots about resilience. That's my expertise. Solutions for Resilience is my company name, my website. If you put in Patricia Solutions for Resilience, up will come my website and my LinkedIn and all of that activity online. But I wasn't clear that I knew exactly what the research tells us about loneliness. So I started to dive in. I ended up with pages and pages of notes from 10 or 11 books and notes from researching online. What am I going to do with all this? Then I thought, well, people are getting really serious about addressing this mental health crisis called loneliness. So this is a 26-page ebook, and my very wonderful friend and editor, Alyssa Oman, came forward and volunteered to give it an edit, so it's in fairly good shape. All you need to do is email me, and I will forward it to you. And then you have links and information about books that I've referred to, as well as research. So I invite you to do that. And as we come to closure, I want to invite you to do a little Christmas feedback for me. So every year, my husband and I make old-fashioned Christmas cards. We used to draw, and we used to do it all. One time we took a sheet and we put, what did we do? It was called batik. We did waxing and colors, and we cut the sheet in little pieces and glued them on cardboard. We've done linoleum prints, we've done photography, and they get sent out to our friends and relatives. And getting an old-fashioned Christmas card with a handwritten note is considered an honor these days when you get something in the mailbox. And we try to add a little humor. So just recently, I was working at our Christmas card because we send it off to Vistaprint, and they print it and send it back to us with envelopes. And we came up with the COVID theme, because that is going to last forever. You know, the babies that were born in 2020 are already being called the COVID babies. And so this will be a little bit of a memory for us for 2020, but we wanted to show the world that we're facing COVID 2020 with an uplift and with a bit of sense of humor. So I want you to vote, and it'll be vote 1, 2, or 3. So this is card number 1, and you're going to decide which card we send to Vistaprint. So this one is his and hers for COVID-free Christmas with his lapel, and this is the enjoy COVID-free Christmas. Hint, hint. That's 2. And 3 is have a merry COVID-free Christmas. There's my hubby putting the decor on the tree, and that's in front of our house. So card number 1, card number 2, or card number 3. What is your favorite CARP, friends?
Most people are saying 1. There's been a number of 3s and 2s.
Okay.
But the majority are number 1.
Okay, you can let me know when we finish up this session, Doug, what the grand total is of the Christmas card that Les and Patricia Morgan will be sending out to friends and relatives. Oh, by the way, if you would like to email me and receive one and be my new best friend, by all means do that. We'll make a couple extra. And here are my closing remarks before we'll check in with Jim to see if he has any closing remarks for those people online. So make the connection you want to receive. That's my recommendation. Thank you for trusting me with this time with you. And I'm going to pass it back to either Jim or Doug. There we go.
Patricia, can you put up the slide with your email address again for a little bit?
I'll see if I can do that.
And while you're doing that,
There we go.
what I will do, one of the things that I'm sure is outstandingly difficult is to do a Zoom session versus a live session. You can see the reaction of the people as you say things, and it's really tough. But I can tell you, in listening to you, that I felt there was a warmth coming from you. And I don't know if it's because my screen is warm or what, but I believe that it was coming from you. One of the things that you said struck me. And you said, and I think I got you down verbatim, reaching through these lenses. We have to take advantage of what's going on. And I guess Zoom is like, the first time somebody found a telephone and used it. And so we need to take advantage of that. And if that's the tool that we have, we need to use it. So Patricia, I thank you. I thank you very, very much on behalf of the CARP chapter and on behalf of its members. And as you know, we'll be sending an honorarium to CFAN, the Calgary Fetal Alcohol Network, on your behalf. I think that's
Thank you.
Really outstanding. Just to continue until they cut me off, the next few minutes, is to the people out there, please, we need your feedback. Tell us about, any questions you have or feedback on this event. We're new with the technology. We're going to get better, but we're going to use it as our communication network certainly for the near future. Contact us to get involved in our advocacy challenges. Somebody wants to do something, and I know that Patricia mentioned a number of times, if you got free time. Well, we're looking for the people who are very busy, because I'm a believer that people who have lots of time never do anything. And so the people who are busy, please call us and get involved. I mean, we got things for you to do. We'll keep you really busy. Give CARP, and again, I'm going to say this, give a CARP subscription to a friend or to a family member at Christmas. That's pretty easy. Just go online and do that. And I think you're going to help a few things. Use our Facebook, Calgary CARP. Find out about what's going on. Put your comments in there. And last, if not least, in this day and age, get your flu shot. Get your flu shot. Next year, we may be saying, hopefully, get a couple of flu shots, but get your flu shots and wear the masks. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Until the next time.
I have a couple of questions that have come in, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me just find them again.
You can make some up in the meantime.
So here's one. It says, recently I have had experiences with friends who are fearful about engaging socially, not about COVID. Can you comment on some of the fears people have about engaging with others?
I guess you're not asking me that.
Probably Patricia.
Yeah. Are we talking about going out in public?
Well, just as engaging socially.
Well, there are people that have social anxiety. If that's what they're talking about, if it's social anxiety, and you are one person who's a confidant, then nudge them a little bit forward. If it's chronic and they can't seem to nudge to make any kind of contact over the phone or to get online and take a course where they don't even have to speak, if they're not open to any moving forward, making connection, see what you can do around suggesting that in this day and age, in 2020, therapy, I use that word clearly, therapy, healing, has moved forward in leaps and bounds. People do not need to live with unresolved issues, whether it's social anxiety, anxiety around pets, whether it's anxiety about speaking up. It just thrilled me. Last month, a woman who almost vomited every time she got in a car, let alone driving, she, after 2 sessions, is driving a car around without anxiety. So there's all kinds of anxiety, and social anxiety is one of them. So help is available if that person is open to receiving.
And this one I think is mostly a comment. It says, I have a couple of friends that are widows. They get on the phone and talk for 4 hours about COVID, politics, dead husbands, etc. It drags me down, but at the same time, I feel guilty for not wanting to talk to them on the phone.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I love this question. I'm going to make it a question. I love that question. Okay, yes, so you're connected to the people that do the downers. Own it and just say, I'm feeling pulled down. How about we share the best thing that happened to us in the last 24 hours? I'm going to tell you that I got a letter in the mail from my cousin, and she said 3 things that really, really pleased me. I'm going to read them to you. I'm so excited about it. And all right, Ethel, and what was the best thing that happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Okay, another one just was on a previous comment. Says, I have a 2-foot-high fuzzy owl for my grandson that they hug each night.
Aw, where's mine? Ooh, where's my bunny? Oh, there he is.
Somebody says that they set up a weekly Zoom with their mother in a care facility and with cousins across Canada and the US. Signed up for
I want to interject there. I left my laptop with my mother when she was 87 years old. I was upgrading my laptop, and we got a high school student to help. Most senior residents now often have somebody that can help them use electronics. I highly recommend an iPad. It is one of the simplest electronics to use. So if you're wanting to connect and give somebody who's distanced from you the ability to do technology in an easy way, look into an iPad, and you can buy used ones now for about $100 that will work just fine. You don't have to get the newest and most elaborate one.
And one last one says that there are Windows support groups. Check out W2W, which I'd window to window. So yeah, I mean, there is, although if you buy an iPad, I'm sorry, I'm an Apple fanatic. They're way easier to use than any PC.
Oh, absolutely. Much less complicated. So that daughter, that the fetal alcohol spectrum, just Calgary Fetal Alcohol Network is an organization I support because they provide a lot of support, because that daughter that spent 11 years in no jail actually lives with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And we tried 2 different laptops, and they were just too complicated for her. But an iPad, she can manage, right? So simplified electronics doesn't have to be as complicated as what we've been doing here.
Okay, so just 2 more things. One is we will be posting this on our Facebook page, this whole presentation. So for anybody that wants to look at it. And
oh, did I swear?
No.
Yes.
Oh, good. Oh, we don't need to add it then. Okay, fine.
I did, but that's okay. And one thing that I've done, just so people can think about this too, is they've restarted the ability to give blood through the Red Cross. So They're very thankful. It's very safe. Everybody's wearing masks. Everything's clean 10 times to Sunday. So you can sign up for it. And again, it's a good way to participate and help others. And like I said, they're very appreciative of it.
I bet. Well, if we're going to check out, I'd just like to give everybody a virtual hug. Keep up that oxytocin and stay connected.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Patricia.
Okay.